In this tutorial, we're going to start right at the beginning of our programming journey. We're going to start with one of the most critical things, and that's being able to present some information back to the user. So this tutorial is going to be focused on looking at the print statement and outputting information to our end user. So let's get underway. I'm using a version of PyCharm, which you can download from JetBrains. I'll put links in the comments below, and also the current version of Python. If there are newer versions, you can use those as well. But it's a good idea that you're using a version 3 above in Python. Now to begin, I'm going to click on Create New Project. So this IDE helps us have a nice graphical user interface. The location is going to be on my desktop, and I'm just going to call this print statement. And then I'm going to check my version of my interpreter. So I'm just going to click the arrow down. Make sure that you've got a version 3.7 or above. If you don't have that, click that down and ensure that you've got a version 3.6, 3.7. So the most current version I've got 3.7, so I'll use that one and click on Create. If you don't have 3.7 or above, it's a good idea that you pause the tutorial, use the link below in the comments and go download the latest version of Python. Once you're ready, click on Create. Now this will open up our IDE, and we need to create a new file by right mouse clicking and then going to New and then New Python file, and clicking on that. It'll ask us for a name. We will just call this one print and click on OK. This now opens up a blank working document where we can code into this. Now one of the very first things you should do as a programmer is put your name in your program. So we're going to start by putting a comment in our program and putting a hashtag and 2 dashes. The hashtag represents that we're putting a comment. The computer will not execute this. And then I'm just going to put developer, and then I'm going to put my name. If I want another line, I could also put in the date. This way you know when you created the actual program. Now once again, the hashtag represents a comment. The 2 dashes are just cosmetic, but the computer will not execute this. So if I right mouse click and go down to Run Print, you'll see in my output there is no information. I can also run the code by clicking on play up here, or if I want to run the program again, I could always click play here. But the first time you run a piece of code, you need to right mouse click and tell the interpreter to run this program. Now if we want to output some information to the user, we actually use the print statement. Now this is a high level language, so it actually uses the word print. We don't have to use anything too complex. And then we can use some quotes. So I'm using the double quotes, and then I can put my name, like Leon Marsden. Now this time when I run the program, once again I can right mouse click and click run, or I can just come down and push the play here. You can see now in the output area, it now has Leon Marsden, which isn't a bad thing. If I wanted to, I could then put another statement. Welcome to programming, and when I click play now, you see on one line I've got Leon Marsden, and on the second line I've got welcome to programming. Now this is using the double quotes. We can also use a single quote at the start and at the end of the text, and this will also give us the same output. So we can use single quotes or double quotes depending on what your preference is. I prefer to use double quotes. Now the main reason for using double quotes, it's if I've got a complex sentence like print, bracket, quote, don't stop programming, and I want to put a hyphen in, I can now do that with the double quotes, and when I click run, you can see that in the output I've got don't stop programming. If I use the single quotes in this sentence, you'll notice that the text starts here, stops here, and then there's an error by the red line underneath all the way out to the end of the line of code. So this is why I have a preference of using the double quotes. So this allows me to punctuate sentences. Now if I want to have Leon on one line and put Marsden on a second line, I can also put in what's called a soft return. To do that, I can use the backslash and the N, and this will tell the computer to put a return carriage in. So I should have Leon, then underneath that Marsden, welcome to programming. When I click play, you can see that Leon Marsden has now been separated by the return carriage. Now we can also use what's called preformatted text. So we can go print, which is using 3 quotes, 1, 2, 3. Now the reason for using this, I can separate the line and the computer will actually pick up my formatting. So I can put in an A, then I could go in at 2A, and when I run my program now, you can see that the little tree appears pre-formatted. So this helps us create complex sentences so we don't have to output each line at a time. But what if I want to use a complex sentence with quotes in it? How can I go about doing that? Well, one of the best ways we can do it is go print, bracket, I said, and then I want to use some quotes like this and say, don't stop coding. And then I want to use something like okay. And I would like that to come out on screen. You notice there's lots of elements in here. I've got the starter quotes, ender quotes. I want to put the hyphen in here. So there's a fair few complex things in here. Because I want to use these sort of single quotes, then it's a good idea that I have it in double quotes. You'll also notice we have the same problem where the double quotes start and ends, and then it starts again here and ends here, but it's got an error through here because there's a bit of code and it doesn't know what that is, and then it tries to start doing some single quote text. So to turn this into a character rather than a command, we can use that backslash. By using the backslash, the computer now recognizes the quote as a speech quote and not as a start or end block. So I said, quote, don't stop coding, and then I would like it to present that quote, then a comma, okay with an exclamation mark at the end. So let's have a look at this complex sentence. You can now see I said, don't stop coding, okay. So by using the backslashes, we can break the command and use these as quotes, or we can use a break command to say new line. So I hope you found this tutorial useful, showing you how to put in some developer comments, use the print statements with quotes, single quotes, using the return carriage, using the break command, using complex type punctuation, using the triple quotes for pre-formatted text, and also outputting a very complex statement using a series of break commands. So I hope you found this tutorial useful. Give it a like, subscribe to my channel. Also have a look around my YouTube channel for other useful Python programming tutorials.